Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this theater. This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium for the next 90 seconds.
Good evening, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Video Nasty Project. On tonight's episode, we're out in the untamed wilderness that is Kathmandu to bring you a very special movie by Paul Naschy, the Boris Karloff of Spanish horror. Tonight's movie, we're bringing you The Werewolf and the Yeti. Why don't you check out the trailer while I go see if I can hunt down a cryptozoology thing.
The full red moon will soon shine in the sky. The demons will come out of their hiding places, and their howls will be heard in the night, announcing death. My men are afraid and do not wish to go.
What mysteries lie hidden in legendary Tibet? What horrible demons terrorize men who don't think twice about risking their lives? Frightened men pray to their gods with their ritual dances against the evil spirits. The Werewolf and the Yeti. Karakoram is a land of ferocious and brutal men whose law is violence and crime.
Listen, I don't see the bodies of Melody and the professor. Where are they?
Palace, Sucker Khan.
Shut up.
Death is the kindest end to those prisoners in the dungeons of the palace of the Sakar Khan, where a beautiful and evil woman submits her victims to the most diabolical tortures.
We saw the body of the messenger. And he wasn't killed by a wolf. It was you.
In The Werewolf and the Yeti, there is terror, eroticism, and adventure, bringing together the audience and the actors in a nightmarish atmosphere. The Werewolf and the Yeti. The Yeti, the mythical being of the mountains of Tibet, meets the werewolf in a bestial and diabolical battle.
No!
Paul Naschy in his most recent creation of The Werewolf, with Grace Mills, Sylvia Solar, and a great supporting cast.
Only I know of a remedy for your illness. A remedy? What is it? There exists a magic plant with red flowers on it. When its petals are mixed with the blood of a young girl, they can cure those like you who have been contaminated by the demons of Karakoram.
Love. Action. Terror. In The Werewolf and the Yeti.
And welcome back to our viewing of, what the hell do we see? The Werewolf and the Yeti.
Werewolf of the Yeti. What Yeti? We'll talk more.
We'll talk on that a little bit. So this was done by Paul Naschy, like the 8th werewolf movie he did in his franchise.
12 movies?
Something like that.
Over 12 movies altogether. Well, over 12 instances of the character.
But unlike, say, like James Bond movies, where they're all kind of the same dude, this one is, every time he shows up, it's a different guy with the same name.
Yeah.
So he gets a different origin story, he gets a different ending, sometimes he dies, sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah. And sometimes he's a hero, and other times he's not.
So in this instance, it opens with a expedition in Tibet. They're hiking through the mountains, and they've all got their goggles and their big fur parkas, and they're wandering through the wasteland. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Yeti! The expedition is attacked and killed. Apparently, word gets back to a friend of the expedition leader in London.
London. Mm-hmm. You get done with that whole opening scene, and then there's it sets an establishing shot of London, of bridge, Big Ben in the background, and you hear drums starting. And you're kind of like, okay. And then it's slow pan and bagpipes start. And I'm like, they're not in the Highlands. What the hell?
Why are they showing us bagpipes over whatever? So we pick up with the new expedition head who is picking up where his friend left off at. He's going to continue his work, find the Yeti. He calls in Paul Naschy, the international man of danger and mystery, who apparently he's like, this turtleneck wearing Indiana Jones.
Waldemar.
They get the expedition together and they go up into the Highlands. And they're like, the weather's really going to be terrible. We probably ought to hang out in our base camp for a while. And international adventurer Paul says, nah, fuck this. I'm going to go take my Sherpa and go scout ahead. Well, we'll report back in 3 or 4 days. He goes and wanders up into the mountains where his Sherpa freaks the fuck out. The demons! Runs off and dies off screen. Winds up trying to find shelter in this cave that also happens to be inhabited by nymphomaniac, lesbian, vampire women.
He kills both of them with a silver arrow, but before the second one dissolves, she bites him on the shoulder.
Right.
Which is when he...
Yeah.
And turns into a werewolf.
Yeah, but you usually turn into a vampire when you're bit by a vampire.
And we're not even sure that they were vampires. They were just kind of had that weird flowing white dress and the big... Not even just the 2 fangs, the multiple fangs.
Yeah, they had lots of teeth. They had lots of dog teeth.
I don't know, maybe they were werewolf women? I don't know. So they find a coven of werewolf, vampire, lesbian, cannibal women. So he fucks them and kills them and then runs off. Meanwhile, back down to the base camp is like, where the hell is international adventurer Paul at? He's probably lost. We better go look for him. So they go off into the mountains and look for him, where they get jumped by Shaka Khan's bandits.
Shaka Khan?
So the bandits attack the expedition and either kill the people or take the women and the doctor and off to Shaka Khan's fortress.
But there are a couple of more deaths before they actually get ambushed, though. Because they find the one guy who he's drunk and he hits on the woman.
Oh, yeah, he gets a little bit of rapey going on and they get killed.
Yeah, he gets killed. They go back to the base camp. All the Sherpas are gone except they've left their leader behind, whom they've stabbed almost to death.
I'll give the movie this. It has crazy awesome stunts. Mm-hmm. Naschy is always jumping off shit and like he grabs like a rider off a horse and then rides off with, there's this one dude, he's a bandit is up on this really high rock precipice and he's like bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, he's going to fall in a second. Falls.
It's not just once, 2, 3, 4 times.
Oh yeah, and adventurer Paul tackles the guy in the snow off the horse. I mean, while they're riding and then they fall off. I'm thinking, oh man, falling in dirt is one thing, but snow. Oh my god.
And of course, international adventurer Paul is always drop kicking people like fucking Captain Kirk.
Oh my god, that guy is great. Wonderful.
So the Paul's girlfriend gets away and from the bandit attack and runs off into the forest, where Paul and her hook up again. Oh my God! I've been, where have you been? You've been lost. Everybody's been killed. They find this monastery, this old monk Shaolin, whatever the hell it is, monastery. And they're like, okay, we'll come in. The place is mostly abandoned, but we'll give you shelter. And Paul's like, I got to get out of here for 3 days because I'm going to turn back into a werewolf again. The monk is like, no. You need to go tell your woman before you go. Cut to instantly them in bed finishing up fucking. I'm like, that was a weird edit.
Was that an edit that happened in the course of history, or was it an original edit?
Like the flaying bits and all that stuff kind of cut short.
Or is he that much of a stud where he's just like, done?
Blam! Just nails it.
So he goes off to go be a werewolf in the woods for 3 days. The bandits, they grab the girlfriend, they kill the monks, they take the girlfriend back to the fortress, to Shaka Khan's fortress.
Shaka Khan?
And so werewolf Paul has to go in there and just beat the fuck out of everybody like he's beating a sack of puppies. Paul whoops ass on everybody. He has sex with the evil temptress woman, and they get the hell out. They're like, okay, now we're going to go find a cure. We can go find all we have to do is find a red rose and then a young woman and can crush it and turn it into a powder and cure your vampirism or werewolfism or whatever the fuck he had. They're making the powder. They're grinding it up. And you'll notice that we're 90 minutes into a 93-minute movie. What is the one word we have not yet said?
Yeti.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this Yeti shows up and they throw down for about 2 minutes. The Yeti taps out, and they walk off into the sunset. The end. Why do you not give me more Yeti?
Earlier on, when Waldemar is in werewolf mode and he is attacking a couple of the mountain Tibetan bad guys, raider dudes, one of them's got a gun and he doesn't unload, but I mean, it's a 6-shot revolver, but they show 2 solid bullet hits. Blam, blam. And werewolf kills the guy who shot him, and I'm tough, and wanders off into the woods to find a place to curl up in. Into the film. He gets a glancing blow from the Yeti, and he's curled up on the ground. You just took 2 bullets an hour earlier. What the hell?
Okay, I get that Yeti werewolf makeup is expensive, and special effects are expensive. So I can kind of see why they didn't give you Yeti versus werewolf the whole movie long. But why not have, like, you find a dead body that's been mangled. So why not have the Sherpas go, the Yeti was here looking at the mangled body? Why do you not find footprints in the snow occasionally? Why do you not have shadows in the background in night? Some howls.
Oh, there were howls. They were all werewolf. But yeah, why not more Yeti presence?
I'll give the movie this, that it was a really well put together production. It felt very much like a Hammer film, didn't it?
This wasn't a quick, let's dress the basement of the local downtown warehouse. It wasn't that at all. It was, these were sets that really, there was some time spent on them.
The cave set with the vampire lesbian cannibals looked great.
Oh, yeah.
Was well lit. Their general look, they looked very much like a Hammer woman would. The wispy flowing robes.
Oh, yeah.
They were always willing to get their tits out. So yeah, it very much had a Hammer aesthetic.
Now, one of the things that I noticed, and having watched scenes of it again, watched a couple of moments again, and I began to recognize something. And it wasn't that I was recognizing a set; I was recognizing the style. He was using spaghetti western sets. I'm looking at the architecture. I'm like, these look like what would be sets that you would find in a spaghetti western, except take all of the American Western set dressing out and replace it with scimitars and carpets on the wall. I mean, that's what they did. And I was just like, okay.
The only place I guess the production falls down is the look of the Yeti. Make your Yeti white, for God's sakes, because you've already got a black werewolf. You kind of need to have some contrast when they're throwing down.
Especially in a low lit, and it wasn't day for night. They shot at night or dusk or dawn or whatever it was, and it's like two black shadowy werewolf dressed all in black. Ugh.
Plus a Yeti that looks like the snow, like their surroundings would, be more shocking when it jumps out of nowhere.
The other problem is that, the Yeti looks like shit. Now, I won't fault the director for this, because they did the Yeti outfit, and they showed it to the director, and he's like, are you fucking with me? I mean, he quite literally said, don't fuck with me. This is my Yeti. And they're like, yeah.
And that's why he shot it low light, in the dark, to hide the fact that this costume was a joke.
The Night of the Demon had this, moments of interesting bits and this long, slow, dull slog in between the interesting bits. Here, you get about 10 minutes or 15 minutes of exposition setting everything up, and then it just goes balls to the wall.
The pacing is great. It slows down when it's supposed to, but it doesn't slow down to boring pace at all. Oh, no. And when it should speed up, it's sped up.
The snow fights and stuff remind me of snow fights in other movies of the type, like Streak of the Mutilated had a fight with the Yeti in the snow near the beginning.
But you generally don't get a lush, mountaintop snowfield setting like this. So that actually was pretty unique. I like that.
The thing with all of the snow is that there's no fake snow. It is winter. And it shot in Spain, so it's really nice to see that you get to see more of the pseudo-American Badlands look. Spain has features to it that work for everything. There's another little thing that struck me as like, wait a minute, this is real snow, real winter, and up to the point where Waldemar escapes from the cave and he's killed the two women, they've treated dressing warmly seriously all the way up to that point.
And then after that, he runs around in a cardigan.
He runs... I mean, there's one point where he steals one of the raider bad guys' coats, but the rest of the movie, he's in it's like a black satin shirt with nothing on underneath it. The girl's dressed almost the same way, and there's whole segments where they're out just traipsing through the snow like it ain't cold. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
it was cold.
They must have been fucking freezing.
I was like, holy cow.
That's some good acting there.
I remember probably between takes, that girl was like, can I put on a coat? What the fuck? Other than that, I mean, there's the two things that really bugged me other than, 3 minutes of Yeti, what the fuck.
But aside from that, I thought it was a very strong effort. Everything else was great. It just, if you're going to give us quite possibly the greatest premise on the entire nasty list, you better fucking deliver that awesome premise.
I've heard of Paul Naschy before, but I've never seen any of his stuff. I heard of his name come up like 20 years ago, like, oh, it's the guy that does horror. Okay. But I actually, to see it for the first time, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should look into more stuff.
I saw an interview with John Landis and Joe Dante, where they were talking about how awesome Paul was. They really, really loved Paul's work. And I'm like, how have I never heard of this guy before?
He's one of the few people who wrote, produced, directed, and starred in his films. There aren't many guys out there who have pulled it off with the caliber that he did.
Although, in the full disclaimer, Paul didn't direct this one.
He did not direct this one. No, he did not. But there are many that he did. There's a couple of bits that were done in Spain. They were never released out of Spain. One of them is a children's comedy television show where he made himself up as a werewolf and he was a hero in that show. And I'm like, a children's comedy show, and he did himself up as a werewolf for it. I would have loved to have seen that.
Yes, the Yeti looked like shit, but I'll give them this, that the werewolf looked pretty good. The makeup he did.
Let's look at what inspired him. who inspired him.
It was very clearly your Lon
Cheney.
Chaney.
Yes, clearly.
Totally. And it was an old school when they did the transformation. It was the, lock his head down and do the kind of cross dissolve fade and the cross fade and a little bit hairier.
And he's doing this while lying in the snow. Mm-hmm. And you don't see the snow getting disturbed. He's lying in the snow while they layer by layer take that makeup off and shoot another few frames. And I'm just like, holy cow.
So no, it wasn't necessarily your Rick Baker, American Werewolf in London transformations, but it was still pretty good for what it was.
I liked it. I mean, hell, this is one of the better movies of its type I've seen. I've seen a few Yeti films where they walk around and they find the Yeti and it's kind of just lumbering about. And this, it's not 5 seconds after the credits end where the guys are walking around and bam, just right on them, biting them, just slash, bite, tear. And it's like, holy crap. It wasn't like the Lon Chaney where he would just, do that, and getting it, ripping at people. And necks go, and the slashing.
Oh, he has totally got a physicality going on. He is
shit.
Savage as fuck.
That werewolf looked pretty slick. The slick back hair. And there were a couple of times when his mouth was full of blood, and I was like, oh my god, this is so sick.
As far as a monster movie goes, though, it was pretty strong. As a horror movie, though, it was actually kind of tame. It wasn't really horrific. It wasn't really a horror movie. It was more of the Beast of Yucca Flats sort of monster mash.
It's like you said, they could have really pushed the shadows, there's footprints, Yeti, or this guy was mauled by a Yeti. As a matter of fact, there's even a point where they even speculate, this guy was mauled by a Yeti. But it was like, bury him, walk off.
Nothing came of it.
Nothing came of it. And it's like, it's not a horror film. Not in any shape, way, or form.
Yeah, it's far more of a creature feature. Yeah,
it's a creature feature. It's got blood. It's got the gore. But there's nothing making you, what's going to happen next? None of that. Not once. I really would have liked to have known more about what exactly were those girls doing.
The vampire nymphos?
What the hell were they? They're obviously, they've got altars. Waldemar is wandering through their cave trying to figure out what's going on, and he's in all the nooks and crannies as he's walking through the caves, there's skulls. Mm-hmm. Doesn't even look at them. He just
I know why he wasn't flustered by the skulls hanging out in the cave, because he is that much of a badass international adventurer, dude. He's like, skulls, whatever.
Yeah.
You think Indiana Jones is going to freak out over a skull? No. He might freak out over the lesbian vampire cannibal chicks, but Yeah.
Now, I saw something that I actually had an expectation moment that didn't get fulfilled, and I was disappointed by it. He's getting to the point where he's actually going to get into the actual physical altercation dealing with the two girls in the cave, and they're sitting there doing some sort of ceremony, and there's this body laid out on an altar, and it's a skeleton, and it's wearing Tibetan clothing / armor, and there's obviously the mouth is all fangy, teethy, and teeth. That's where he gets the silver arrow from. He pulls that arrow out of that body, and I'm sitting there, and I immediately went, is the body going to sit up now? I had that moment, and nothing happened. I'm like, they're doing a ritual. He's pulled the arrow out. Werewolf come back to life? Nope.
Completely independent of your thought, that's what I was thinking too. It's like, oh shit, he's just pulled the arrow out of the thing that's keeping Dracula dead. Oh no. Complete
Nothing.
red herring. Nothing.
Nothing. I'm just like, you had a moment. God damn it. That would have been freaking cool. He pulls the arrow out. I'll deal with these two girls. And then behind him. Look,
See, now that's what makes me think they're werewolves, because it was a silver arrow.
Yeah.
And silver kills werewolves, but not vampires.
Yeah.
So you got anything left to say you need to add?
I want to go to sit down and actually do a Paul Naschy marathon.
That sounds like a quality move. All right, we'll catch you next time with more Paul Naschy someday down the road.
So, is it nasty?
I'm going to go, what the fuck were they thinking? There was, you had the Cannibal Holocaust guy on a spike, and you had the back flaying. Those were kind of graphic-ish. That's probably what twigged the censors. But otherwise, it was a pretty tame flick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guy on the spike was, there's enough of an establishing shot And they cut away from it and they remain really tight on his face. And he's kind of got that pasty green, like he's bled out and dying.
I suppose that was why it was a little bit more brutal than Cannibal Holocaust was, because he was actually alive versus the girl was dead.
And then they cut wide again, but they're not really focusing on. You're seeing it long enough to realize, oh, dude, that's gotta hurt.
Big time.
And yeah, the whole bit with the girl getting the skin flayed off her back was just wow.
Although it was done really quick, and I mean, all the women were tortured apparently at the same time because they were all bloody, but you only saw the one get cut up.
Yeah.
Which means they must have cut the scene short in order to just get past it.
Yeah. So not on the list?
Oh, hell no. This is about as tame as Shriek of the Mutilated, honestly.
You know, there are Hammer horror films
that are much
worse than this, and none of them made it onto the Video Nasty. But it might also have something to do with the fact that many of those films never got released on cassette.
All right, case dismissed. Not on the list.
Done. So, did you like the film?
I liked it. I really, really liked it. I went into this knowing nothing about Paul Naschy. He was a name that had appeared in my news feeds occasionally, but... And then I go in and it's like, yeah, this is actually really low budget, but I really liked it.
I love the film, and once it got rolling and I realized, wait a minute, this is Paul Naschy. Yes!
No, I thought it was pretty fun to watch, especially the mauling scenes, coming out of nowhere, jumping, and a lot of high-flying jumping like luchador stuff, like when Voldemort, he goes to jump at this one guard, and it's like he's way up here, like he jumped off the top rope. I'm like, holy crap!
Paul Naschy seriously took what he was doing seriously. So yeah, I love the film. Great film.
Yeah, no, well worth your time watching.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's intermission time. You now have 10 minutes to stock up on the tasty treats offered at our refreshment stand.
Alrighty, that wraps up The Werewolf and the Yeti. Oh, next week you definitely want to come back by and check out the program, because next week we're almost done with the 39 prosecuted list. Next week, it's Zombie Flesh Eaters. It's actually a pretty decent flick. You might want to check it out. In the meantime, please drop us an email. We'd love to hear from you. The email address is thevideonastyproject@gmail.com. And, well, you all stay safe. I've got a hike ahead of me. Bye-bye.
We're going to be killed. We're going to be killed. I hear the demons of the Red Moon, like the other time. I know they're here. We're going to die.